Well, I'm Matthew Kemps with Lone Wolf Realty Group at Spyglass Realty, and this is
Matt Kirschling, Gold Star Mortgage here in Austin.
Two Mats, one market. Go. All right, today we're going to jump in and start this off with some market statistics. Just kind of update everyone where everything's at. On the screen here, you're going to see kind of an idea, but we're going to go to detail, kind of explain it all. So first, let's talk about Travis County, and then we'll talk about Williamson County. So Matt, sales are up about 12%. Our average days on market are up 20 days at 57 days on market. The median sales price is down 4% at 525,000. The new listings is down 12%, which means we're not getting enough inventory. Our active listings are up 9%. Our pending sales are up only 0.5%, and our total sales volume is down overall in Travis County. So let's talk about Travis first. We'll move to Williamson County.
Yeah, man. Tell us what it means.
All right, our average price point in Travis County right now is in the mid 550 range, depending on where we're looking. Typically, it's around 525. But when we look at this entire area and we're comparing it to, let's call it Westlake and Lost Creek and Spanish Oaks, we're going to have higher price points there. So we're talking 2 million plus, but we're taking the average here. Those listings are affecting those averages a ton because you're going to see, especially on 8% rate
Right.
on a jumbo or something on those, it's less people moving. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Okay. And then when we compare Travis County to Williamson County is going to be a little bit of a lower price point. We're going to see more activity there. So, for example, let's just go through some of the statistics. Crazy enough, the sales are still down 20% in Williamson County. The average days on market are up 27 days. The median sales price is down by 6%, but our new listings are only down 10%. Comparing that to Travis County, we're having a little bit more of inventory, but the good side of things, we're seeing total sales volume only down 23%, but the inventory has increased by basically 0.2 months. We're sitting at roughly 3.3 months of inventory. An average healthy market at 6 months. So both Travis County and Williamson County are below. So we're still in a low inventory scenario. 100%. I think we both agree that rates are affecting this completely.
Well, yeah, and inventory in general. I mean, there's talk that it's probably going to take about another 3 to 5 years to even get inventory to where it needs to be. So you've got people timing the market, and supply and demand is a thing. So if you're going to wait 3 to 5 years, maybe you've got an argument.
There you go. So let's tie all this into why we're seeing more renters. First, give me your kind of take on what you're seeing, and then I'm going to go into something I heard from Steve Harney over at KCM.
I think at the end of the day, you're seeing a lot of renters because of two things. The first thing is fear, right? You've got a lot of people that hold that, they're not dumb people, right? Mm-hmm. And anytime I find somebody who's really good at one thing, they kind of tend to think that they're good at everything. There's a lot of ego in home ownership, I feel like. And instead of kind of, submitting to somebody who, think about it, all the stats you just spit out, like we're reviewing this stuff on a regular basis, right? And unless you're doing, first of all, if you're doing all of the research and all of the statistics that we are doing, like either stop or get in the business.
Exactly.
Right? You're not helping yourself. Like there are people that are doing this and have the time to do it, and this is what they're doing. So I think a lot of it is, fear because of lack of, confidence. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other part of it is kind of something we talk about all the time, which is timing the market.
Yep.
Right? Everybody thinks that they're going to time it at the perfect scenario, and I had a short story that I wanted to tell that happened to me yesterday where I had a gentleman that contacted me, and he's considering buying a home. And I basically always ask, like, what's your situation? Do you own a home now? And the very first words out of his mouth were, well, I bought the home that I currently live in 2007, right before the crash of the market. Mm-hmm. And he said it like he made a mistake. But then a couple of, moments later, he kind of bragged about how he had $150,000 worth of equity in his property. He currently is paying a mortgage payment that is basically unattainable. Mm-hmm. And he had all these like positive things to say that ultimately wouldn't have come to fruition had he not bought in a market time that, looking back, was a great time to buy, right? And what was interesting about it to me is like, looking back, we all jokingly say things. You see the memes, you see the, things like, oh, I should have bought a house in 2009 when I was 6 years old,
Yep.
right? And the reason why buying a home in 2009 was so lucrative was because, for the record, interest rates in 2009 were in the mid to high 6% range.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to get a property because people were afraid to buy due to the recession, which made property values low. And then as soon as they came up, everybody easily can look back and say, look at how smart I was for buying when I did. Well, I'm here to tell you that based on all of those metrics, if price is what you're going for, now is like the 2008, 2009. I promise you, you are never going to get a home in terms of price for less than what you're going to be able to get it for right now. And here's what's interesting. If you bought a home in, say, like 2007, 2008, 2009, you got it for a great price. Your interest rates were in the 6% range. And what happened in 2009 and 2010? The government stepped in with quantitative easing. Interest rates dropped to the 3% range. Everybody who bought a home during that period refinanced. There was one of the largest refinance booms we'd ever seen. And it all just feels like, what's the Taylor Swift line? I've seen this film before, but like,
So perfect.
right? Like, I've seen this film before and I remember the ending. And it's just like, again, I want to really speak to anybody that's renting about a topic we haven't talked about, which is cash.
Okay.
Right? So if you're a renter and you're thinking about buying and you're not planning on or even have the means to put down 10, 15, 20%, which, let's face it, most first-time home buyers don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Now is the time you have to buy, because as soon as, let's not even talk about purchase price values. Let's just talk about the fact that as soon as interest rates reduce, the people who own homes already are going to feel more comfortable and confident in selling and buying a new home, and you will never compete with the cash that they have in terms of equity.
Mm-hmm.
So you're out. Like, I would say to anybody who is currently renting who doesn't have more than 10 to 15% down right now, you literally are out of the market when rates come down. So if you're waiting for rates to come down, if you're a first-time home buyer, don't own a home, have less than 10% down, I promise you, when things get to where you time it, you're out because you don't have any cash to throw around.
Especially with the equity.
Yeah, there's $0. Yeah. And like, you got people in equity positions, you've got people with, again, unless you're a big saver and you're like, I'm going to save a bunch of money. And with all due respect to you first-time home buyers, you're younger, you're not big savers, you guys value experiences more than anything. You guys all call me with like, hey, what are your first-time home buyer programs? Like, no one asks for a first-time home buyer program because they've just got like a bunch of cash to throw around. So keep it real, be honest with yourself. And if you're like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to come up with like 10, 15, because if you've got that 10 to 15%, what you're going to have to do is you're going to put down 3% and you're going to take the rest of it to bid over ask, because that's what everybody else is going to do. So
not now in 2024.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you don't have cash, man, and you don't own a home right now, like, I honestly believe this might be the only opportunity you have to buy, or you're going to have to wait until things, fizzle out again. So good luck. I mean, God forbid you take the professional's word for it, right?
Let's real quick get into what Steve Harney was said.
Yeah, about renters, right?
So on the screen, you're going to see it here. Basically, it's talking about why are people still considering rent. So I'm going to read the tweet out real quick, or X, whatever you want to call it. Something I'm not confused about, but does drive me crazy, is when people say that renters don't have to pay for home maintenance, property taxes, and home insurance. What do you think is paying for those things? The landlord's out of their pocket, out of the goodness of their heart? Well, I'm sorry to tell you, of course not. Any housing-related expense and increase in that expense is baked into the rent, along with one other cost, a profit for the landlord.
Wait, you mean they want to make money?
Oh, wow.
Shocker.
People who warn that homeowners will be hit with monthly housing expenses increase this year because of rising taxes and rising insurance costs should realize that those increases won't just hit homeowner-occupied homes, but all homes. And as mentioned above, the landlord will pass those increases on to the tenant by raising rent. Just saying. So give me a little bit more detail of what he's talking about here, and then I'm going to get into some of the stats that we have based off year-over-year rental averages.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, anybody who gets into an investment property that's, renting it out is going to be doing so in order to turn a profit, plain and simple. And profit is not a dirty word. People don't buy investment properties for the fun of it.
Yep.
There's headaches. There's things break, right? Tenants sometimes don't pay. There's risk associated with it, and they're going to make sure that they're not going to lose. And so as property values rises, taxes are going to increase, and all of those expenses, whether it's repairs, taxes, property management, those expenses are all baked into what you're paying. So, although it feels good to not have to come out of pocket with, if a water heater breaks or something along those lines, just like insurance, I see that with insurance. People make a claim. They're like, I got a new roof. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. And then all of a sudden their insurance coverage, they drop them. And then they start shopping for insurance and they can't find anything for under like $3,500 a year. And they're like, what's this all about? Like,
exactly.
Nothing's free. No free lunch.
So I'm going to go into some of the stats.
Yeah.
Then let's talk about what mortgages would be compared to that and what price point that'd be looking at.
Sure.
So average rental market stats. Let's start back in 2019 was $2,500 a month. 2020 moved up to $2,595. In 2021, and I'm going to ask Matt this, but I'm going to assume this is rate related. We actually dropped in 2021 to $2,550.
It was an inventory related is what it was.
You think so?
I know so.
Okay.
I know for a fact. It's because, and we've talked about these statistics, it's because you had a lot of people that were getting into the market as investors, getting these homes ready for rental, and we were flooded because investors saw low rates, they saw blood in the water, and they bought a lot of homes and turned them into rental properties.
Okay.
So it's the supply and demand right there.
Yep. And then 2022, we got $2,585 a month. And
that's an increase in taxes.
2023, $2,775.
Right, which is a combination of increase in taxes, and now you finally have people that are like, oh, I'm going to rent because they thought, oh, in 2021, rental prices aren't going up, and, well, you were wrong. They did.
And I will tell you that the demand for rental, just based off of the months of inventory available in rentals, right now we're saying about like 1.8 to 1.9 months of inventory for rentals, and that's less than what the home for residential sales is.
Yeah, I could see that. I wonder what the general, and this is something that I'd be curious just for my own. I don't follow rental stats as much as purchase, of course, but I wonder what is average rental on the market.
You want to be 3 to 3.5 months.
Okay, that makes sense
For residential. Multifamily and everything else can be completely different. We're talking single family homes only.
Right. Okay.
Because I can tell you when we talk about apartments, we have way, 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 way too much occupancy. Sorry, vacancy.
Vacancy. I was going to say, really?
Vacancy.
Surprises me. Vacancy. Gotcha. So what's our next touch point, man?
I want to see, let's just talk about $2,775 rent compared to what that would look like on a purchase. Let's say it's first-time home buyer.
Yeah, first-time home buyer, you're putting down 3% or even doing down payment assistance. I like how you split it into counties. I mean, if you're going to be going into Travis County, you're probably going to be capped right around the $400,000 range just because of the taxes. If you're going to be able to get outside of Travis County, if that's something that you would entertain, whether it's, Williamson or where's like Buda and all of that, Hayes County.
And then we got Bastrop to the east, and then we have Caldwell southeast.
Yeah, you'd be able to get into more like the 450 to, if you get far enough out, to $500,000 range. Now, this is with 3% down or down payment assistance. I mean, hypothetically, if you were the guy that I was talking about a moment ago who bought his house in 2007 and now has like 6 figures worth of equity, you can just tack that on to the numbers that I just gave you. So, when we're talking about $500,000 outside of, Travis County, I mean, you could get into the $600,000 range and put yourself in the 2023 rent range easily.
Okay. And now let's talk about what that gets you, and I'll kind of touch on that.
Yeah.
So in Travis County, $500,000, we're looking at a much smaller home. We're looking nowhere near West Austin. We're going to be focusing on South Austin, North Austin, and Northeast Austin, north of Allendale and Chris area. So we're going to be focusing 78750, 78759. We can get a little bit more into detail. Again, feel free to reach out to me. We can talk about this kind of stuff and type of searches. But definitely outside of into Williamson County, Hayes County, Bastrop County, it's basically all those areas you can kind of touch on as long as we're not looking at large acreage land. you can kind of get into those price points based off what Matt's talking about, on whether it's 3% down, down payment assistance programs, or if it's transferring equity. It's you kind of world is yours to kind of take over with what you're looking at on your monthly payment. So I think let's talk real quick a little bit more about rent, and then we're going to jump into some other more fun things.
I want to ask you a quick question
Yeah.
just based on what you just touched on. I think one of the things, and obviously you're going to go over some of the stats on the rental stuff, but like, what's $2,775 going to get you on a, say like a $500,000 home in terms of square footage, beds and baths, a yard versus like what I'm going to get, in rent?
Perfect. So we'll do the county again. Travis County, you're looking at 900 to 1,300 square feet at most.
Mm-hmm.
Williamson County, we're looking at 1,700 to 2,600 square feet. And then if we're going Bastrop and we're going Hayes County, Hayes is going to be matching basically what I just said for Williamson. Bastrop, you can get up to 3,000 if you want.
So basically, I'm getting more bang for my buck in terms of like price per square footage as a purchase versus rental.
So like if we're going outside in Williamson County, we're probably talking about 175 to 200 square foot. If we're inside of Travis County,
Dollars.
Square foot per dollar, yes.
Right.
Yeah. If we're looking at Travis County and we're talking, 325 all the way up to Barton Creek, 950 to
Right.
1,200
So
square
almost
foot.
double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some areas, quadruple.
I mean, I feel like that's the thing that people don't think about. It's like you're not gonna, for the cost that I just mentioned, for example, in something in South Austin, like a $400,000 to $450,000 home, you're getting like 2,000 square feet in a yard, right? And like most of those rentals, there's some of the smaller homes in that county area. Like there's some
like
of the
0.14.
Right, so you're getting a smaller home, potentially a smaller yard, and you're paying the same amount of money. Now, I know for some, they're like, I don't need all that square footage, but, if you have children or anything, and at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm a typical American. More is better.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm there with you.
I like more.
I'm on the right there with you. We did an acre.
Right.
So let's touch on this a little more, then get to the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So U.S. Census Bureau states that the average income in Austin, Texas, even with the tech boom, is $73,500. So doing the math on that, that's $6,125 a month before taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you're renting a property, the landlord's going to usually ask for 2 times of your monthly income, or 2 times of monthly rent, or 3 times of monthly rent. So 2 times monthly rent, we're looking at $5,550 is double for average rent of $2,775. $8,325 is 3 times of average rent. So now we're talking about income. When we look at triple or double the rent, typically, and let's say there's no debt involved.
Yep.
What does that usually qualify you for?
So, I mean, the only thing I see here, and again, it goes back to what I kind of made mention of with my little rant about if you don't have cash, like, yeah, I guess if you have, when I look at this, you're definitely not going to be able to put together a down payment for a $400,000 home with only $8,300. However, we can look into down payment assistance options and everything along those lines, so that kind of eliminates that. I would say that would be the only downside, but that's terrifying in the sense of you're never going to purchase a home then, because I promise you, if don't lie to yourself and say you're not buying because of rates, just be honest with yourself and say, I'm not buying a home because I can't save money. But if you're almost there, you have to be. I mean, you're almost there with the 8,300. We see first-time homebuyer programs with as little as 3% down. You're $4,000 off.
Okay.
Right? And then we're seeing seller concessions and everything along those lines being a thing. Like, I don't know, man. When you say something out loud and you're like, that was genius.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to really realize how important what I am saying to renters really is, where like if you're short on cash, you have to buy a home now, or you will not be able to buy a home when everybody with cash decides they're going to get on board.
Okay, so now let's just go life advice here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I'm only making $8,325 a month.
Yep.
What should I do with my life? How do I improve it? How do I make more money? Should I consider a job change? Do I look at different industries? What would be your suggestion?
Well, So sure, I mean, trying to figure out ways to make more money is
Yep.
always smart. I have this conversation on a semi-regular basis. You know, if one of the things I think about, I've been a commission-based employee my entire life. I've
Same.
never had a salary.
Same
It's
here.
never been a thing. So for me, it's not like scary, but I talk to people who are in salaried positions where what are you going to receive? A 10 to 15% raise every year tops. Like that would be
Miracle.
phenomenal,
Yep.
right? And they're always telling me like, well, how do I make this happen? And it's like, well, you know, you need to like look at the money that you're making and decide what it is you're going to do. What I'm seeing a lot of people doing, and I have a little bit of a tinfoil hat theory behind this, but what I'm
Let's go
seeing,
into it.
so what I'm seeing a lot of people doing is, you know, people are buying homes together,
Okay.
right? Whether that's, I mean, the obvious, which is boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife.
Mm-hmm.
I have done multiple deals for like two best friends that are guys that are buying a home, and, you know, they're getting in the game with the long-term intention that they know exactly what I just said, is that as property values increase, when rates come down, you're going to need cash
Mm-hmm.
to work with. So they're like, hey, we can live in this house together, accumulate some equity, and then split it. And now both of us have some money to throw around. That's a way you can make more money.
Okay, let's do some math real quick. Let's say a mortgage payment comes out to about $2,200, right?
Mhm.
It's $1,400 per person.
Correct.
Your living expense, let's call it even after utilities. Let's call it $1,700 on a really expensive utility scenario.
Yep.
Realistically, it's probably $1,600. That person, let's say they're making, let's call it $8,500 a month. You're only spending $1,600 on your home. Look how much money you're absolutely saving in that scenario.
Well, think about
And
what
it's
you're
not- it's not-
accumulating in terms of equity.
Yes.
That's kind of my point.
Okay. Well, I'm just talking on a monthly basis because that's
Sure.
And I'm going to go back to myself.
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago,
Yeah.
6 years ago, I was in this mindset. I wasn't making a lot of money. I'm straight
Right.
out of college, and I don't really understand how to budget quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just stupid at that time, honestly. And I had to look at what I'm doing on a month-to-month basis because I felt like I was paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
So I'm not all the way to the point of thinking equity yet. I'm just trying to put myself in first-time home buyer scenario. I have more money monthly. I can save more money. Now when I see the realistic understanding that I'm not going to be paycheck to paycheck, I can look at bigger picture now. Oh, here's bigger picture. Here's equity. Now I was like, oh, shit, there's just like a little plan here. And
Yeah, you don't even
like
have to
it's a light,
budget.
it's a light that goes on too.
Once you budget and buy the home, all you need to do is budget to make the payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then flash forward to 3, 5, 7 years later, I mean, on $500,000, you're accumulating over six figures. And even if you buy in with a buddy of yours, in 3 to 5 years, you both have a $50,000 chip to throw around now in a market and get yourself into something that, you know, you maybe
solo.
want to more be into. And so, you know, reading all of this and going through all of this, it just proves the point that we talked about. I truly believe, you know, we can debate if you own a home, like the gentleman I was talking to who owns a home and bought it in 2007. Those are debatable topics, but if you do not own a home and you're low on cash and all of these things, like I'm telling you right now, the only reason these people aren't buying is fear.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I mean, there's everything here. Come at me, bro. Debate me.
Mm-hmm.
Call me. Explain to me. And unless you're going to say, well, I live at home with my mom and dad rent free, like, all right, you got me.
Mm-hmm.
You got me.
I got no expenses, bro.
Right, exactly. If that's your scenario, well, I mean, I would argue, gosh, I can't imagine living with my parents, but hey.
Holiday now?
Right, exactly. But yeah, I think it's all just fear-based, man. I really do. Like, have a conversation with a real estate professional, a lender, whoever you feel is qualified to have a conversation like that, not your uncle
Mm-hmm.
that, is a washing machine repairman or something.
I have him go to your inspection with you.
Right, exactly.
Again, okay, my name is Matthew Kemps. I'm with the Lone Wolf Realty Group at Spyglass Realty. We have people reaching out to us daily, whether it's phone call, text, email, pigeon care, or whatever it might be. We can dedicate a plan to you to kind of focus on exactly what you're looking for to do in this market, as we kind of touched on. And then I also have Matt Kirschling here as well.
Yeah, Matt Kirschling, basically focusing on mainly first-time homebuyers in this market, but ultimately want to connect with people who are having trouble getting under contract as well. Just want to be very involved as the lender, going putting it out there that you're the very best buyer and they should choose your offer.
All right, so let's go into two different questions, and then we'll roll into the sports betting stuff.
All right, so question for you here, just to keep things lively. How would your friends that are not in the industry describe what you do?
Oh wow, this is great actually. Okay, what do I do? And I'm gonna look at a social media aspect of what they see in life and what they see just social media wise and what we talk about. Okay.
Right,
They know I'm obsessed with real estate.
right.
They know I don't know if the word obsessed with golf is or with golf is the right way to say it, but I have a passion for golf.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that Saturday, Sunday, even though I'm running around doing open houses, doing buyer showings, doing listing appointments, I am checking in hourly on to what's going on with sports bets.
And what do they, if they were to describe to their friends, what do your friends outside of real estate think you do for a living?
I pray to God you all know that I'm a real estate agent. If you don't know that, please let me know and I will fix something on our marketing.
So I think for me to answer the question, everybody knows that I do home loans and I'm in the mortgage space, but but I think what they think I'm doing is just like pulling credit and telling people how much they can afford, and then just like waiting around until they buy a home, and then like pressing a button that's like boop approved, right?
Yep.
And basically like trying to make your life miserable by asking for more documentation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you want to clarify that? What we actually do?
What I actually do is, I mean, it's pretty wild, man. If everybody saw what happens behind the scenes in regards to the checks and balances on all of the information that we have to basically like figure out about you, because honestly, the buyers are liars type of line that gets spit around real estate on a regular basis is true.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of bad guys out there. So we are constantly doing checks and balances to make sure that the income is correct. We're constantly doing checks and balances to make sure you're still working at your job and doing all the things that you claim that you do. We're calculating ratios. I mean, a lot of times what's interesting is we put together budgets, and I find myself more often than I'd like to admit wondering why someone wants to buy as much house as they do, when I can just see in like matrix code almost that like this is going to make them house poor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is a lot of what we're doing. And then honestly, the that's about 80% of it, and then the 20% of it unfortunately can be a lot of watching grown successful adults act like babies. Keeping it light.
That's in my industry too.
Right. The other question that I had was, what was your very first job, and how do you think it
Okay. Very first job, I was a caddy at Spanish Oaks.
Okay.
So, but I was a four caddy. And if you don't know the difference between a four caddy and a real caddy,
Nobody does.
okay. Caddy means you have the bag on your back and you're carrying the clubs for the guy, right?
Okay.
For caddy, everyone's in a cart except for you, so you're sprinting your ass off ahead of them before they tee off. You're spotting balls,
Okay.
basically putting a towel or some kind of marker so they can
Sure.
figure out where their ball's at, giving them numbers, replacing divot, running to the green, holding their clubs, get to the green, reading putts, then holding wedges if they're chipping,
Mm-hmm.
but still reading putts and be able to have your hands available.
Yep.
That was my first job. Felt like the best college job possible because it was all cash. And I made way too much money doing that in college. I spent all of it in bars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel that job in terms of experience transitioned or helped you in what you do today?
Communication.
Communication.
Learning how to read people when they want something in
Mhm.
information or when they want to be left the F alone.
Got it.
And you learn that very quickly when you're on a golf course, and you learn to get to know someone really well on a golf course. I'm spending 4.5 on those rounds. It was what, 4 to 4.5 hours with someone. If I can't learn something about them or learn who they are or what they're interested in or in that time period, there's nothing going on with that person. So I'm going to learn a lot about you in that 4 to 4.5 hours. Whether it may not be details about your life, but I can tell by your personality what your interests are
Sure.
and how you want to react in different scenarios. And just learning people a little bit more was one of the big takeaways on that.
Gotcha. My first job, I was 14 years old. I worked at a restaurant in Berea, Ohio,
Okay.
called the Eastland Inn,
Okay.
And this place was a little dive bar that probably seated 40 people tops.
Okay.
I mean, that would be like packed bar, packed dining room, 40 people. So very, very small.
Big, just scaling size, bigger or smaller than Deep Eddy?
A- about that.
Okay.
About that. Little smaller, like Deep Eddy without the back room.
Without the pool table.
Correct.
And the downstairs and all that.
Correct.
Okay.
So it was like this. They had a really good like scratch kitchen, surprisingly, out of there. And I was the dishwasher. But when I say dishwasher, I don't mean like what I feel like most people think of, where there's a dishwasher and you run like the racks through. I mean like washing dishes by hand. So I used to come in at 6 o'clock in the evening, right after like the rush started. And I only worked from 6 to 9 because I was 14 years old. I had to go to school. And I would wash dishes by hand, and I hated it. My hands were always like chafed and everything along those lines. And I did love, though, at the time, this was, God, I'm trying to think of what year this was. I mean, this is like mid 90s. And I got paid $5 an hour cash at the end of every night. So $15 to wash dishes for 3 straight hours. And I thought it was amazing. But I was just so interested in the idea of working and making money that the kitchen that was in this place, no joke, was about 15 feet long and about 8 feet wide.
Okay.
Like a small bedroom with an
Yep.
entire kitchen and the sinks and everything. So you're in there with one other dude, and we're like bumping in, like backing up into each other and everything. Like it was small.
It sounds like there's no corner.
Right, exactly. And like it's a small kitchen, so of course, all the food smells and everything. Like I would leave that place with like just grease everywhere. And because of it being so small, there would be times when it would be like not effective for them to like run over to the fryer. So then I start learning the fryer, and I start learning how to do the grill and everything like that, and I just loved it. And eventually, after about a year, I'm 15 years old, they started letting me like do some of the cooking in this place. So
Okay.
now I'm like short order cook, and I'm doing dishes and everything like that. And I look back on it, and it was such a great experience because it basically taught me how to, like, pun intended, like put out different fires.
Mm-hmm.
When you're cooking in a kitchen, like you can't just like cook the meal that's on the ticket. Like you've got like 10 or 12 tickets. Like you've really got to like put everything together and make sure that things come out on time. They could, come out correct, and they're not like just coming out one by one. And I got really, really good at it. And I just look back on it and I think, man, that was such a great experience, and I had so much fun. But this restaurant, what a good deal for them. Like, you got a short order cook and a dishwasher who only comes in at the busiest time, pay him $15 cash, and he's out. Because, like, I later on, watched other people who've owned restaurants and stuff. And those of you that work in restaurants, like, when you're really getting yours is during the downtime when, like, you can relax because you're hourly and you're like, all right, yeah, I just made my hourly rate, but all I did was, like, cut tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm, like, busting my ass for 3 straight hours as a short order cook and a dishwasher for the 3 busiest hours. And then the moment I get some downtime, they're like, you're out of here.
Oh my
Here's
god.
your $15. But it was cool, man. I mean, it was a great experience. And, when you're 14 and 15 years old, by the end of the week, I only worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I'd have $60 cash at the end of every week, which, for inflation and everything, is probably like $150 a week for a 14, 15-year-old kid. I just thought I was such a baller. I loved it.
It's so great.
So it helped me with this job because there are a lot of moving parts, and it's imperative that we don't just do one thing at a time, So like we've got to order an appraisal. If it's a condo, we order a condo certification. We need to get your bank statements in on time. We need to get your closing disclosure out on time. So there's a ton of things, just like preparing multiple meals, where I can't just say, oh, well, I'm just going to focus on the Kemp's file today
Mm-hmm.
all day, and that's going to be my day. It's like, it's not how it works. It's very much like working in a kitchen.
Love it, man. All right, let's jump into. I'm gonna name this section "Lone Wolf's Kitchen." Okay,
Let's go.
I like this. This is gonna be Lone Wolf's Kitchen. We're gonna have a title on this and everything. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna tell you the lines of. We're gonna start with college football, and then we'll move to NFL.
For those of us that don't understand lines and bets and everything,
Yep.
can you dumb it down for us?
Sure. Okay, so let's use the first one as an example. Okay,
I'm basically talking about myself.
you got it. Okay, so we have Penn State ranked number 7 versus OSU, Ohio State, ranked number 3. The Ohio State. Okay, the line is OSU, Ohio State, minus 4.5.
Got it.
So that means before the game starts, you can look at it 2 ways. Penn State's either winning 4.5 to 0, or OSU is losing negative 4.5 to 0.
Right.
To Penn State. Okay.
Got it.
So there's 4.5 points that's being able to play with that Ohio State's already lost, basically.
Right.
So in that scenario, if you were to give a 4.5 point spread, and yes, these half points really do make a difference.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Who would you pick in this scenario?
Me personally,
Yep.
I'm taking Penn State only because I don't think OSU is going to be able to cover the spread.
Fantastic, because we're on the same side. Both taking Penn State plus 4.5.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move to next game. I just kind of picked all the big games.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got number 17 Tennessee versus number 11 Bama.
That's a big spread.
Spread is Bama minus 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
This line opened at minus 9.5. And what that means, Vegas basically sets these lines when they open at a certain number. So this scenario is 9.5. Based off what the public is betting on amount of money and tickets on each team, the line adjusts. It's like a stock.
Sure.
Okay. So this one opened at 9.5. Bama is currently at this second minus 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want?
I am still going to take Bama.
Okay.
Just because of the rank of 17 and 11.
Okay.
For the record, I don't really watch college, so I know nothing. So I'm going just off the statistics, but that's what I'm going for.
Okay. We're going to be different here.
Okay.
I am going to take the explosive offense of Tennessee.
Fair enough.
I think that they are actually going to win this game.
All right.
I would sprinkle a little bit on the money line.
Win.
Wins.
Straight up. So you'd go even money with
Yes.
Tennessee. Wow.
No, not even money. I don't know the actual line on the money line right here. If I were to guess, I'm going to guess they're plus 210.
I see.
Just based off of that. So what that means is I would risk $100 to win $210.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to say Tennessee's actually going to win this game outright, and they're going to cover the spread at plus 8.5. Okay. All right. Let's move on to number ranked or 13 Ole Miss versus Auburn, unranked at plus 6.5. Auburn being plus 6.5. This line opened at plus 2. So what that we know that means, Ole Miss got a lot of money.
Yeah. How do they do it without a rank though?
They're doing it based off how much money is being bet on each team publicly.
Interesting.
At inside of Vegas. So let me give you an example.
I wouldn't even know how to bet on this then.
Yeah, you would. I'll teach you.
All right.
Okay. Ole Miss is opened at plus 2, right?
Yep.
Sorry, minus 2. Auburn was plus 2. So what that tells you is a shitload of public money was bet all over Ole Miss minus 2.
Okay.
Ton of public money, ton of public money, ton of public money. And that what that tells you,
why?
Because they think that line was set too low.
I see.
So they had to jump that line up to 6.5 to cover the differences. So anyone who's now betting on it is going to get getting a line at 6.5. This is just like stocks, just like real estate. You were trying to buy low.
Well, then I'm going Auburn.
Okay.
I'll take the points.
Bingo. Auburn plus 6.5, and they're at home.
Let's go.
Okay. Lock. We both are on Auburn plus 6.5. Okay. Man, I'm going to get you into this shit now. All right. We got ranked, 14th ranked Utah versus 13th ranked USC.
Ooh.
This opened at minus 7. The current line is minus 7. What do you like here? So
I mean, this to me.
I'm going to give you little details about both teams. Okay?
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't know.
USC has a shit defense.
Okay.
Great offense. Heisman quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Utah has a phenomenal over-round coach, has a phenomenal defense, offense. They are a great explosive team.
And USC's -7.
They're losing. They start the game minus 7-0.
You know what? I know you're not going to like this, and I'm only saying this because it's college.
Okay.
I'm taking USC.
Okay.
And the reason I'm taking USC is because I know a lot of these college games, you know, you're not dealing with all NFL players, and so mistakes get made. And if you've got an offense that can shoot the lights out, and let's face it, USC's got a good track record of a high-scoring team. Even at -7, I'm going USC.
Okay, we're fading each other on this one. I'm going Utah.
All right.
All right. Reason being, I think USC's offense is actually can be stopped by Utah, and Utah's offense is going to just absolutely destroy USC defense. Okay, let's move this.
We're gonna make sure that we go over.
Oh, we're gonna have records. It's every single week. We're gonna have set records.
All right, good.
And this will be a continuous records.
All right,
okay?
I like it.
That's why I'm making notes here.
Right. Okay.
All right. Cleveland. Okay, now we're gonna move to NFL. You know a little bit more here.
I do.
Okay. So Cleveland Cleveland Browns are playing Indianapolis Colts. The line opened at Colts +3.
I hate that. So I'm originally from Cleveland, so obviously being a Cleveland fan, I mean, +3 Indiana.
Yeah, in Indiana.
And they're getting 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got to take Indiana.
Okay, we're against each other again.
I don't see. I'm going Cleveland for the win,
Okay.
but they're just always so damn close. Like we almost always win. I feel like we'll win by 3. Which, for the record, to make sure I'm correct, if Cleveland wins by 3, does the push go to Indiana?
Nope, it'd just be a push.
It would just be a push. Can I say push?
You can just bet -3 and you get money back.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Okay, we're on the same side then.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I think will happen then.
So what I would
See,
do, I would do in this scenario, just not to get too detailed here, I would probably buy this down to -2.5.
Mm-hmm.
That would probably be -140 on it. So risking 140 to win $100.
Yeah.
Buy it down to -2.5.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the Buffalo Bills versus New England Patriots. Line opened at +3.5. It's all the way up to +8.5. New England.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what
New
you got
England
here?
sucks.
They're trash.
I'm just gonna bet again. I'm going Buffalo. I mean,
I don't think there's any other option here.
Right.
I honestly probably wouldn't even touch this game, but just if I were, I'm not touching this game. But for this conversational piece, we're both on Buffalo.
This next one's gonna be tough.
This next one is insane. Okay, we got Miami Dolphins versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Line opened at -4. We're now at -2.5 Eagles.
I'm going Miami.
Okay, Kirsch's on Miami.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Philly at home, -2.5.
Just because Philly fans are so freaking mean.
And they're coming off a loss.
Okay.
And they're in at home. And Miami is,
It's so close though. I feel like that's almost, yeah.
Okay, so you're here, I'm there. All right, next game. We got San Francisco 49ers.
You mean the team that Cleveland beat?
We got San Francisco 49ers versus the Minnesota Vikings.
Uh-huh.
This line opened at Minnesota +2.5. It is currently +7.
I'm going to say San Fran only because they've got to be so pissed off about the Cleveland Browns beating them and ruining their 16-game undefeated record.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that just anger and animosity is going to have them shooting the lights out against Minnesota. So even with +7, I'm going San Fran.
Okay, so you got San Fran -7. And to clarify, I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan.
Okay. Purple people eaters.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch this game because I don't know what's going to happen because San Francisco just keeps scoring and Minnesota keeps letting everyone score. And oh my God, I hate betting on my own teams. I wouldn't touch this game, but I would take San Francisco -7. And same scenario, buy it to 6.5.
So where do we not see eye to eye?
We did not see eye to eye on
The Cleveland game.
Cleveland game.
Well, no, we changed that.
No, we changed that.
Okay. We're
Utah, USC.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn, Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And
Miami.
and Bama, Tennessee.
And Miami, Philly.
And Miami. Yeah, almost every game.
All right. About half of them.
All right. Let's finish this up real quick. Again, I'm Matthew Camps with Lone Wolf Realty Group at Spyglass Realty. We would love to help you through the process, whether it's buying, selling, investing, and we can be reached at all the information down below in the description. Calendly link is there. Set up some dedicated time just for us to kind of walk you through the process, and I'll get over to you.
Love it. Matt Kirschling, Gold Star Mortgage. Yeah, I've been pulling back a lot on the stats and all of that. I want to have basic conversations, guys. We identified that fear is the big thing. Like, don't be scared. Call me. Let's just chat. Let's go over some of the things you're concerned about and figure it out if we can't create some confidence.
Perfect. Thanks again, everyone.